under an hour with our next guest. And I'm so excited to introduce you to him. He's been called the world's strongest man, the world's toughest man, the world's fittest man. He's consistently invited suffering and discomfort into his life to grow further. He's someone with a phenomenal background. He's a former Navy SEAL, an ultra marathon runner, a triathlete. And today we're going to dive into his new book, which is called Can't Hurt Me, about mastering your mind and defying the odds. His name is David Goggins. David, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm so grateful, honestly. And I'm so glad, we were just talking about it. I'm so glad that we got a moment to connect before, because I think this conversation would have been very different.
It would have. I immediately walked in and, I sometimes look at people and what they have and, I'm like, oh, here we go again. But, I got a chance to know you, know a little bit about your backstory, where you come from, and know that we have some similar, just like a mentality of how to come up. So it was nice.
Absolutely, man. I think what you put yourself through, and I don't say this anyway, I'm not saying that I can say I've had the same experience at all.
Right.
But I feel we've been wanting to challenge our minds
right.
in the same ways.
100%.
And that excites me, that desire, that hunger, even though we chose different paths.
Right.
I don't think I could have ever chosen your path. That we chose different paths, but we were testing the same parts of ourselves.
Right. The mind is the one thing that we don't test enough. A lot of us are so afraid of that test, and that's the real test. That's where the real growth comes from is the mind. So
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I've had a beautiful fortune of actually diving into this book this weekend.
Great.
And I have to say, and I'm saying this honestly, so I was just telling you this earlier, 2017 to 2018, I read a book a day. I read 365 books in a year. I made a video about the books I read and how I did that. And then 2018 to 2019, this year, I read a book a week.
Right.
And one of the things I've struggled with recently, and I'm saying this as a compliment to you,
right.
is that it is so hard to read a book that isn't an article or
right.
isn't an Instagram caption or isn't a short video, because we live in a world where we're constantly consuming content.
Right.
But when I picked up your book, the thing I loved about it is the amount of effort that you've been through to give us, I'm sure this was suffering too, like writing this book, the amount of effort that you've been through to actually give us detail
right.
on your life. And I just want to start there about the process of writing the book, because I feel what you've done, what a lot of authors have missed out on recently, is you've gone a step further
right.
to really do self-work to write the book.
So in that book, it's a raw, very humbling version of David Goggins. I went down to the grassroots, to the soil, to the sewer of my life. It's the stuff that we don't want to talk about. It's the stuff that we don't want that person next to you in line knowing. And I had to have the courage to say it out loud to people. And so I was able to really go back and put so much detail into my story. Was we all have different things in our life that have scarred us. We want to act like those scars don't exist. So those scars, like, if you go out and you get cut, that scar is going to be there on your arm. You can go down and look at that cut and say, oh, or that scar and say, oh, that happened from, I was in the kitchen, or what happened. We have the same thing on our brain. I have all these scars on my brain from growing up, from, being abused, from suffering through life, from having a learning disability, from stuttering, from having just a really bad childhood. And so all those memories, I had to cut open that scar and go into it. And that was a hard process for me to do. Not only was that a hard process for me to do, for me to have the courage to share that with people, because I'm the so-called toughest man on the planet. So they think. So for me to break open that shell and tell people, hey, that wasn't always me. It's hard to do, it's hard to do. So it was a tough process.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm so glad you did peel that back.
Yeah,
because
tough.
It's so easy to live that title.
Oh, yeah.
But when you the fact that you had the courage to break down that title,
right,
to actually lay it out, it's going to open up the door for so many more people.
Well, I had to do it because, throughout this journey, I started becoming this new person. I started creating this new person. People started seeing me as this amazing superhero. In the back of my mind, I knew the real story. And I was like, man, one day you have to really share it. And I'm like, man, but do you have the courage? It's great to live right here. I've established this. People think you're great. Just stay here. Don't go back. Let's not go back. But the only way you can help people out is let them know that this is possible. So I had to go back and say, this is where I come from.
Yeah.
And where I come from is hell.
Absolutely. And now when you go back, you talk about how your childhood was a nightmare.
Right.
Tell us about some of the defining moments in your childhood that actually framed that experience to being a nightmare.
Well, my dad was a person that, he was an alcoholic. He was really big on being a powerful man. And he had two different sides to him. He had a side that once you left our house, so our house was the dungeon. No one knew anything about about the inside of that house. The inside of that house was horrible. It was evil. Like the evil monster came out to play. Wow. But once he left that house, he was the nicest person on the planet. So no one knew, who this guy was. So the scarring started happening inside the dungeon. And my dad didn't really believe in us going to school. He had a family business, and the family business was a skating rink and also a bar. So my dad owned, it was called the Vermilion Room was the bar, and the skating rink was called Skateland. So from the time I was able to walk, I was working that skating rink. And I worked it from like 9 o'clock at night until like 12 o'clock in the morning, pretty much. That's what we did. I'm 4 years old, scraping gum off the skating rink floor, doing stuff like that. Me and my brother and my mom. Once the skating rink was shut down, the bar would open up. The bar would be open from like midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Once that closed down, we'd go upstairs and clean the bar. So by the time you work like this, I'm a young kid. It's time to go to school. So most time we didn't go to school. So we missed school a lot, but thank God for me. I didn't like school anyway. With a learning disability, with a stutter, I had white splotches all over my skin from being stressed out, hair, patches of hair falling out at a young age. And once my dad got drunk, that's when the nightmare began. And, he'd get drunk, he'd get violent, and we got beatings quite regularly, probably at least once or twice a week. And the beatings weren't like, hey, I'm going to give you a whipping because you did something wrong. It was like, hey, I don't feel good today. And you get beat for that. And my mom got a lot of the beatings, and it would just trickle down to me and my brother. So that foundation of life that I didn't have, that's how it started off for me. And it's progressively got worse. So when you have a horrible foundation, it's like building a house on a fucked up foundation. This is what you're going to get. Any kind of earthquake or something happen, the house is going to go down. Sometimes, it doesn't even take an earthquake. It takes a little windstorm. So that was me. I was just a little windstorm away from breaking.
Yeah.
All the time. A windstorm away from breaking. But no one knew it. I walked around like I was a pillar of strength at a young age. But that internal conversation you're having back here is this weak little kid, very afraid. And I think that's what makes the book very powerful, because I take you there.
Yes.
I take you to that spot of, I'm superhuman now, so you think. But a lot of people have a lot of problems that they can't overcome.
Absolutely, man. And I definitely felt when you were diving into that I was reliving it with you.
Right.
And I think you do that so powerfully in the book, because it's hard for people who haven't had the same experience to envision it.
Right.
But you made that possible. But the other thing that you do is I think you're highlighting something that is so huge for us, that I genuinely feel that so many of today's challenges that we all face as adults are because of our childhood. When did you realize that your childhood was something that needed healing, that needed transforming as an adult? When did that come, when you were like, I need to go back there to transform, to change my experience?
It happened when I could never get over the hump. I kept on feeling like I was getting over the hump. And then one little windstorm, small little windstorm would come by and push me back to scratch. I was like, why? Why am I not, I'm learning how to read now. I was a junior in high school and couldn't read that well, a fourth grade reading level, because I would cheat on everything. And I learned how to read. I learned how to write. I taught myself all these things, all these disciplines. But whenever the first real big challenge would come, that little windstorm would push me back in the hole. And I realized, man, I'm fixing stuff on a surface level. I'm all surface, man. I'm not going deep into the cellar of my mind and fixing the foundation of my soul. My soul is broken. But I knew I could fix it, but I was afraid to go back. I was afraid to face the demons of my life, because you start lying. You want anybody knowing this shit about you. So you start lying about who you're not and start creating a person about who you want to be, but it's not who you are. So that's when I started realizing, man, I'm never going to get over the hurdle. I'm always going to live on a surface level until I go deep, deep into the sewer of my mind to figure out and face all of these different demons. That's hard. It's hard. We all like social media. We all like everybody to see us for who we want to be. That's why we post beautiful things about us. That's not going to fix you. So I realized that, and that's when I started going back. So I was about 24 years old, and I went from 175 to almost 300 pounds. And that's when I sat down on my couch and realized we got to go back. And it started with me going back to my father. So we left when I was 8 years old. We went to a small town in Brazil, Indiana. There's about 5 to 10 black families in a town of 8,000 to 10,000 people. And there was a big hub of Klansmen that lived in Center Point, Indiana. And I talk about that in the book. So the Klan marched on the 4th of July parade in 1995 in Indiana. So when you come from a messed up foundation like I did in Buffalo, New York, where my dad beat me senseless, and now I have that messed up foundation, and now I'm here being the only black person. I call it the only in my book, being the only black person. My mom's working 3 jobs. We're living in a $7 a month place. She's never at home. So it's not like I had some mentors coming in to help me. You know, they were trying to put me in these different group places for like having some shrink talk to me and these 8, 9 kids. And one kid setting his house on fire. Another kid's peeing in the trash can. Another kid had a helmet on, banging his head up against the wall. And I'm looking at this at 8 years old. You know, and I'm going to get back to your question that you asked me, but these are the things I had to go back and relive. You know, I'm 24 years old now, and I have to go back to all these things that no one knew about me in this group place where I'm in this place where these people are crazy and they think I'm crazy. And I'm looking at them thinking, I'm not crazy. You just don't know where I come from. I came from a place that truly damaged my mind, damaged my soul. And now I have to go back on my own to face this shit. So, you know, at 24 years old, I sat there a lot of times. It was like one day I woke up and said, I got to face this. This haunting fucking voice in my head kept on saying, man, we got to go back. The only way we can go forward is to go all the way back. And that's very scary to do for everybody. Yeah. But the only way you're going to fix yourself is to go all the way back to the beginning, to your childhood, because that's where everything starts.
And that's what's blocking most of us.
All of us.
Yeah.
All of us. Everybody thinks it's, my God, like my marriage is messed up. This is messed up. You have to go back to fix all your problems. It all starts from the root, man.
The root, yeah. I
root.
was just about to say we have to go back to the root because otherwise we're just dealing with the symptoms.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you cannot fix anything by giving it Motrin. You have a jacked up knee. The swelling may go down, but it's still jacked up in there. You got to get it fixed. You got to fix the knee. All those pills do, so, you know, pretty much is just let the swelling go down. And you can live a little longer, but you're not fixing the problem. You're not fixing the problem.
And I guess the most people don't go back, or all of us, like you said, we don't go back because we don't know how.
Right.
Right? Like most people don't know how. Like how do you start? How do you go back? And like you and I love that example that we start thinking the issue is our marriage or our relationship right now or our job or our career. And I totally agree with you that we need to go back, but we don't know how.
Right.
Now you start talking about in the book some ways in which we can start. How?
Right.
Can you tell us about some of those?
So one big thing is the accountability mirror. You have to start with yourself. So what happened in my life was we start to get, I call it like the rucksack. A rucksack is a pack that you carry in the military and you put all your stuff in it. Your radios, your food, your water, all that stuff you have to carry in the military. That's your rucksack. It's a backpack pretty much. As you're growing up, we all have a backpack. Most of ours, hopefully, is empty, you know, and what we put in it is all the crap we go through in life. That's what is in the backpack for the civilians, and we carry it around with us. So what you have to start doing is realizing that no matter where you're at in life, I got called nigger a lot. My dad abused me, you know, learning disabilities, stutters, immaturity, insecurities, self-doubt, so much crap on top of me. So much stuff. I lied a lot to create friends. So much stuff was in my backpack. No one's coming back to help me. So it starts with that person in that mirror. You have to realize you are on your own now. And whatever else you believe in, I don't care what you believe in, but on earth, it's a very lonely journey. And it starts with the accountability mirror of looking at saying, hey, my dad who beat the hell out of me is not coming back. All these things are coming back. I have to face myself. And you have to own all those things that people may have done to you. Now it's yours. You got to own it. And it's yours now to fix the problems that people did to you. It makes no sense. It's not fair. I get it. But if you live in that woe is me mentality of guess what? My dad did this to me. My mom did this to me. People who bully did this to me. You're going to always live right there. You have to figure out ways to move forward because you're not coming back. And it starts with the mirror. And I call it the accountability mirror in the book.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I'm glad you brought it up. Anyone who's watching, listening to this right now, I really want you to take this seriously because this is like what you're talking about, what David's talking about here is exactly why all of our suffering and pain that we're currently experiencing feels so tough and hard because unknowingly or knowingly, we are choosing to be stuck here.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Unknowingly or knowingly, whatever situation you're in, you're choosing to stay stuck because we don't want to go and unpeel and uncover.
That's right. You don't want to break open that callus, that scar in your mind. You don't want to break, you have to break it open, let that blood flow. You have to let blood flow in your brain. You have to let all that stuff flow out. All that toxic stuff that you have trapped in there has to start flowing out now. So like you said, you are doing this to yourself. Yes, people may have helped you get there, but it's now on you.
That's a painful truth, though.
It's a painful truth. Painful truth. Like all those people in high school and everything else, they don't know how you're going to end up. So you got to make sure that you constantly are rewriting your book. You have to constantly rewrite your book every day of your life. And these aren't just words I say. This is how I have to live. Like these are conversations I have with myself. And I say it everywhere I go. The most important conversation when you have with yourself.
Yes.
You live with it every single day. But most of our conversations are not the right ones. They're not the ones that are going to push us to the place we need to go. They're the ones that are going to keep us sitting in that toxic environment that you've helped create and everybody else helped create. And you just live in it. You live in that muck. And that conversation just plays in your head. And that becomes you.
Decode some of that conversation that you started with yourself. Like how does someone listening start that conversation with themselves? And what are the general transitions that you need to start seeing?
So my first conversation when I was absolutely nobody, and that's one thing you have to say. We live in a world now that's so kind. We find the kind way around everything. Like if you don't look good, I have to find a kind way of saying, I don't like your shirt.
Right.
That's not the approach. If that's the approach you're looking for, that book is not for you. Can't hurt me is not for you. The approach you have to take, at least I took, you take whatever approach you want. The conversation had to be a real honest conversation in the accountability mirror of, guess what? I was fat. Don't find a kind word to say that, you know what? I've gained some weight. No, you're fat. When I couldn't read, not like, hey, you have a learning disability. No, I cannot read. I have a 4th grade reading level. I'm struggling. And sometimes I call myself stupid. Not in a way to put myself down. So don't take it like, my God, those are so hurtful. Yeah, they're hurtful. It's honest. The conversation has to become an honest conversation of where you're at mentally. Where am I at mentally? I look like shit. I feel like shit. I'm falling behind in school. I'm lazy. My house is a mess. You have to look at what it is and call it what it is. Don't find words to make yourself feel better because so we hang around people that make us feel better, that tell us what we want to hear, not what we need to hear. And so we stay away from those people. And we stay away from those people, like our internal dialogue becomes that kind, it's okay. It's not okay. So that's where it starts. It starts with that accountability of it's not okay anymore. This can no longer be okay. And calling yourself out for exactly what you are and exactly how you need to fix it. That's where it starts.
I love that. I think that's awesome. I think you're so right that so many of our conversations with others are politically correct.
Exactly.
Therefore, our conversations with ourselves are politically correct, and then we continue to feed the illusion.
That's right.
Right? We continue to feed it.
Nothing gets solved by that, man. Nothing. And if you look at America right now, and I won't get off on this, nothing is getting solved because there's so much racism. There's so many things, and that's just one of them. We can't talk about anything. We are skirting all these conversations because if I say this, I'm going to offend a black person or a white person or a Jewish person or a gay or lesbian person. We skirt around the daggone problem. So we can't fix shit. Everything is like, well, if I say this on TV, I'm going to lose my damn job. We have to say it. We have to break the barriers within our minds, within the world. And it starts with yourself. It starts with yourself. You got to break the barriers down within yourself and just go there. You got to go to yourself.
Absolutely. That was the honest conversation you had then. What's an honest conversation you've been having with yourself this year? Like because like you said, and I completely agree with you, it's a constant cycle. It's repetition. We have to keep doing it.
So I talk about the repetition in my book a lot.
Yeah.
Got to get the reps in. So now my conversation is this. I never set out to write a book. When I was in the dungeon and no one was coming back to help me, I just wanted that reflection in that accountability mirror that I hated so badly to be something that gave me pride, to be something that made me feel. It's not about money. It's not about success. It's not about people. Oh my God, that's David Goggins. Sign my book. No. When I started this journey out years ago, it's about, I just want to learn to read. So now I'm at a place now where I see the possibilities of human potential. What are we capable of is the conversation now. The conversation now is how can I now talk to people in a way they can understand the message that I have for so many people. For so many people. So that's the new conversation now is that you are constantly evolving. You never stay, either you're getting better or you're getting worse, you're not staying the same. So for me, I have to constantly be getting better. I have to constantly be evolving my message. So I'm constantly thinking in the quietness of my mind. That's a key point too. The world is so fast paced. The world is so noisy. So my conversation now a lot of times is, my God, slow down. The world can take you here, be there, be everywhere. And I lose myself sometimes. So I catch myself in the airport. I catch myself in the plane where I'm writing stuff down. Okay, remember this, remember that. And I'm going, hey, hang on a second, Goggins. What got you here? This isn't what got you here. Slow the fuck down. Go back to the quiet place of that dirty mirror in that $7 a month place you used to live in. That's where you grew. So that's what I'm constantly reminding myself of. Go back to your roots. Now, I'm not saying go back to hell, but I'm saying don't forget where you come from. As you start to explode out of the gate when you become someone, my conversation is do not forget your roots. Do not forget your roots. Don't let this become so big that you lose yourself amongst the noise. Go back to the quietness of what made you successful. That's the conversation now. It's a constant reminder of that.
I love that, man. That's the mantra. Do not forget your roots. Repeat that again and again. And I have a meditation that I developed for myself to do that for me that I want to share with everyone because it aligns so closely in what you're sharing. So every morning I sit and I look at my intentions to do anything. So whether there's a new deal on the table or there's a speaking gig that I've been invited to do or whatever it may be. And in your life, it can be anything, whether you're starting a new business, you're writing a book, it may even just be an Instagram post for whatever it is. And I look at whatever my options are and I ask myself, which ones of these is a seed and which ones of these is a weed? Right. Because the incredible thing in our garden is that weeds end up looking like seeds and can confuse you.
100%.
So often that thing that's giving you ego and pride and fame and control and power looks like it's amazing.
Right.
But actually it's just strangling you.
100%.
So every day what I'll do is I'll look at the garden of my life and I will try and unweed my garden. So I'll look at everyone and be like, why am I doing that? And ask myself, why am I doing that? And if the answer is not love, compassion, empathy, growth,
right,
personal push, sacrifice, service. If the answer is the opposite, greed, money, power, fame, if those are my reasons,
right,
then I have to take that weed out.
100%.
I have to pull it out because if I don't pull it out, that weed's going to keep growing.
Right.
And one day it's going to be so big
right,
that I wouldn't even have seen it.
Exactly.
And so I'm with you, man.
And that's why when I walked in here, the first thing I do is I want to know the person, because there's so many people right now doing exactly what we're doing. What turns me off so badly is I see so many people out there trying to motivate people, inspire people, help people find what's going to drive you. I see all this shit. It's all fucking a bunch of shit. And I walk in, I see it everywhere. Everybody's got this going. Everybody's got a new podcast, this about I'm going to help you find yourself. They're not living it. They're not living it, which is why I look at people and I'm like, what are you about? Are you actually doing what you say you're doing? Which is why when I heard some of your story, I realized that you have substance to what you're saying, which is why now I can speak to you. A lot of times I go on these podcasts and I don't want to fucking be there. You know, because I start realizing this person is just talking. He's not living. And we share this with people and we expect them to change. They can see right through you. They can see you're not doing this. So that's the thing about it. Don't do everything in your life for money. Don't do everything. Yes, we need it to survive. There's a great drive and passion behind doing things for the mind and the soul. There's a great drive in that. Everybody goes, man, you talk with such passion. This is a life. This is my life. So that's what I want people to get from all this stuff, man. Like there's something inside you. The brain is the most powerful thing. The mind is the most powerful thing that we have. It's not your phone. It's not the computer. It's not anything. It's your mind. And if you can tap into that, you can come from the daggone roots of hell and become such a great seed, a powerful seed that can grow into some great daggone garden. And people don't get that. It's all up here. The power and the magic's up here.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that, man. And thank you for saying that, because for me too, that was, my desire, what I was sharing with you earlier, is changing people's relationship with perception.
Right.
And when I started, I'll be completely honest, when I started making videos or any of this, and I've been talking about these things and studying them for the past 13 years. And when I started making videos, which was only 2 years ago, I had no idea that anyone would care.
Right.
I made it because I wanted to share what I'd learned.
Right.
And I put it up, and I genuinely thought my life was going to be, I was going to go to my 9-to-5 job, my 9-to-9 job. I used to work 12 hours a day in the corporate world. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make videos on the weekends.
Right.
And hopefully they'll help someone.
Exactly.
Like there was never a desire for this to be anything more than a service.
Right.
And so when I hear you say that, and also just about how much we perceive each other, and I mean how we perceive other people, etc.
Right.
It's so important for all of us to give each other the benefit of the doubt.
That's right.
And hear from each other.
Right.
To connect.
Exactly.
To see. Like I said that to you earlier. I already knew I was gonna like you.
Right.
I was hoping you were gonna like me.
I didn't know that about you. So I make sure and that's something that's very powerful. A lot of times we hear about someone else through the grapevine. Mm. And then I won't like you because I heard from somebody else that they don't like you. Always do your own judging. Always meet the person. Look at the person in the eyes before you say you don't like that person. Listen to their story. Listen to who they are. Listen to where they come from, how they lived. Get your own opinion about people. It's very huge. A lot of people didn't like me coming up because they see this hardness, this crust. Break away at the crust and see what's inside that person.
Absolutely, man. Don't judge a tweet.
No.
Don't judge one post.
No.
Don't judge one message.
And don't judge somebody from 30 freaking years ago. Or I say 30 fucking years ago. There's so much stuff going on right now in the world. People are trying to evolve. Let them evolve.
Yes.
Let them evolve. Don't bring them back don't bring them back where they came from.
Yes.
Don't bring, if someone wants to get better, don't bring them back to where you knew them when they were a piece of shit. Let them fly. And if you feel like hell because they went away and they escaped the hell that you all once lived in, fix yourself. Fix yourself. Don't hold them accountable because they got away. Don't constantly remind them that they were once here. Fix yourself. Because a lot of people feel like crap once people start to leave their little nest, like if you're an alcoholic and this guy says, I'm going to stop drinking. You want to bring him right back in. No. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, wow, this guy's doing better. Take that feeling of feeling like shit and do something about it. Change your own life.
Absolutely. Well said, man. Well said. Do you think we do that subconsciously? We don't want to see other people grow and fly because we're not growing and flying.
That's 100%. It makes us feel like shit. It's a constant reminder of where we're at in life. When you see people start to, even this one person, let's say you have a group of 10 friends, best friends, you guys party, smoke weed, drink. You guys are just 9-to-5ers, making minimum wage. We're just getting by. Like Goodwill Hunting. Mm-hmm. You watch that movie?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
That guy wanted to stay there. Matt Damon wanted to stay there. You know? Ben Affleck was like, no, man, get the... Fuck out of here, man. That's the kind of people you want to be around. And those people, very few people like that exist in those crowds because you are a constant reminder of who they are now. This guy got out. Now, every day I wake up thinking, God, I'm a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. I'm a piece of shit. But I don't have the courage and the strength and the self-discipline to do what he did. So it's a constant reminder. I don't have the courage, but you do. Mm-hmm. You do have the courage. You just got to find it.
Absolutely.
You got to find it. That's the hard part.
Yeah. And let's talk about suffering a bit, because I think what we're talking a lot about right now is that journey for it to begin for anyone.
Right.
It's painful.
Yes.
It's an inconvenient truth. It starts with suffering. It starts with pain. There's no other way. You're saying you got to go back to your demons, got to go back to those stories. It's suffering. How have you changed your relationship with suffering? Because I think everything's a relationship, and your relationship with suffering fascinates me.
Right.
So I want to know, how have you evolved in your relationship with suffering and discomfort?
So think about it. When I say suffering, people cringe. People, that's the one word, whenever I post about it, people cringe. It's not about suffering and how people may look at suffering. Like you have to just go to a place that just every day of your life is suffering. You have to tap into suffering every day of your life because we have so much scarring that we have to clean up. You have to look at suffering as almost like I look at failure. To succeed, you must fail. In failure and in suffering, all the answers are in there. All the answers to all the test questions. The test is your life. All the answers are in there. You don't have to live in suffering and pain and failure all the time.